Carmel had been born and raised in Stroud. She'd been married to her husband, David Gamble, who was a computer executive in Stroud in 1973. The couple lived in a flat in Church Road in Wimbledon in London, although Carmel yearned to be closer to where she had grown up. So the couple had purchased a holiday home in Stroud. It was a cottage, and every now and then Carmel would travel back and forth to spend time there. It was reported that the couple did not have any children of their own. Carmel was a familiar face around the town due to her slim frame, her wooden clogs, and her woolen coat. She enjoyed shopping around the local boutiques and also enjoyed sitting at home reading and drinking tea. She also enjoyed visiting the local library, where she would spend time looking for her new books to read. She was described as an intelligent woman, although she was extremely quiet. She wished to be social and have friends, but that was just not the case. Whether it was due to her just being very awkward, quiet, or maybe self-conscious about her weight, Carmel had no friends and spent most of her time alone reading. She had a severe eating disorder, receiving treatment at London's St George's Hospital. He saw her as she'd been battling with this for 15 years, and by now she weighed less than 5 stone. She ate mainly vegetables and low-fat foods, sticking to strict meal times and sticking to mainly vegetables, although after a meal she would allow herself the odd fruit gum. These were very small sweets. She mainly stuck to the same flavour and limited herself to 1 or 2 after meals. Due to her hunger, her doctor described Carmel as exhibiting symptoms such as being overly alert, overactive, restless, not being able to sleep very well, and feeling hungry almost all of the time, being quite irritable, and having difficulty relaxing. In late October, early November 1989, Carmel had gone to stay for a couple of weeks at the cottage in Stroud, leaving her husband behind at home in Wimbledon, London, as he needed to stay there for his job. Now, despite their physical separation, they would arrange times when he would call the phone box over the road from the cottage. She would go over at the times that he said he would call, and they would catch up. Now, on Thursday the 9th of November, 2 days before this case began, Carmel was out and about shopping in Stroud. It was 5:30 p.m. and she was at a shop called Rumbelows. The lady who worked in the shop remembered Carmel coming into the shop with a slim, middle-aged man. The lady described them as being together as they were seen talking as they walked around the shop. Although when the cashier came close to them to ask if they needed any help, the man walked out of the store. Now, Carmel's doctor had said that he felt that Carmel would only shop in the evenings because there were less people around, and she would feel less self-conscious about being seen. Carmel lived an extreme routine life. Everything had to be orderly, everything had a place. And she continued to live like this as it gave her a sense of control. On Saturday the 11th of November, as usual, it is getting towards closing time as Carmel started her shopping trip. At 4:30, Carmel entered a sewing shop alone, buying 6 buttons. The lady behind the counter remembered Carmel as she had been in there before. The lady remembered her as being looking sad, alone, and with very little communication, but that was all pretty normal for Carmel, nothing out of the ordinary. About half an hour later, Carmel was in Boots on the high street. Carmel bought a few items before leaving the shop. The shopkeeper remembered Carmel as she had to delay cashing up while she served Carmel. After this, it is said that the lady in Boots was the last person to ever see Carmel alive again. It was about 1.5 miles from town to the cottage. Police believe that she probably walked, as it was usual for her to. The next morning, at 8 a.m, a neighbour remembered that someone unusual that they'd never seen before was stood in the phone box opposite the cottage. Nobody recognised who it was, and 20 minutes later, smoke was seen coming out from the cottage. The police and fire brigade arrived, and as the fire service entered the house looking for anyone inside, they found Carmel's body. She was dead. The fire service carried her out. She was so frail and thin. At first it looked just like smoke and some burns, although after her body was fully examined, it was noted that she had been mutilated and had many fractures to the skull from blows to the head, meaning that she must have died prior to the house being set alight. So, did whoever did this to her set the house on fire to try and cover their tracks? It certainly seemed that way. The house had apparently been set alight with stacks of clothing. Police believed that this was now a murder investigation and they needed to speak to anyone who had seen or spoken to Carmel the day before this happened. But that was difficult, as Carmel was a very quiet, shy and private person. The people that had seen her in the shops had very little to tell police about what she was like that day or her behaviour, as it all seemed pretty normal. They were obviously interested in speaking to a man Carmel had been seen with in Rumbelows, but despite them requesting that he came forward for elimination purposes, he never did, and it seemed like he had disappeared into the night as quick as he had come into it. Carmel had said little to her neighbours. She was barely seen during the day, and it really left police with very little to go on. No one had seen anyone coming or leaving the cottage, as like we discussed before, Carmel really did keep herself to herself. So police looked more into the home and what they recovered from the scene. Apart from her own possessions, police found nothing but they believed belonged to anybody else. There were no fingerprints and very little in the way of evidence. A few sightings of people in the area, including that of a man seen sat on a bench close to Carmel's home at around 2:30 a.m. the night before this happened, were looked into. This man, with his head in his hands and holding a white plastic bag. Police requested for these people to come forward, but still, no one ever did. The shopkeeper at Rumbelows came forward to tell police about the man that Carmel had been seen with in the shop. He had been described as having scruffy brown hair, being around 45, having this herringbone jacket and intense eyes. Police spoke to David Gamble, her husband, although despite being upset, he seemed to have an alibi. It was noted that Carmel's long woolen coat was missing from the home, a coat that she never went anywhere without. Police questioned if someone had taken this to try and cover up stains that they had on their clothing from the crime. The person seen in the telephone box opposite to the cottage was described as someone that no one had seen before, and police asked for them to come forwards, although they never did. It just seemed a coincidence that they had been so close to the cottage only minutes before smoke was seen coming from the house. Despite the home and grounds being searched thoroughly, this item used to inflict these injuries on Carmel was never recovered. With little to go on, within very little time this case became cold, with no new leads, nothing in the way of evidence or witness accounts. This case to this day remains open but is very much a cold case. No one was ever arrested for the murder of Carmel Gamble. Do you think that this was a hit and this was arranged by someone close to her? Do you believe that she met somebody down there and had let this person into the house? Or do you believe that they had let themselves in by means of force? What do you think happened to Carmel? And why do you think this case has never been solved?